The glass doors of the grocery store slid open with a soft whoosh. Cool air rushed out and touched my face. I pulled my sweater closer around my shoulders. At 62 years old, I felt the cold more than I used to. Sydney in September still had a bite to it, even though spring was supposed to be here. Don't forget to like this video and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Mom, I'll grab a basket. You can look at the fruit. My son Benjamin said he walked ahead quickly like he knew this store very well. I had come to Australia 2 weeks ago to visit Benjamin. He moved here 5 years ago after he married Emma, a woman with perfect hair who always smiled at me like I was a stranger she was being polite to. I pushed my cart toward the vegetables. The store was busy with people shopping after work. I could hear different languages being spoken, English mixed with words I didn't know. I stopped to pick up some tomatoes when I heard fast footsteps behind me. Mrs. Smith, a young woman with red hair, rushed toward me. Her name tag said Katie. She had a big smile on her face. Yes, I said, turning to look at her. I smiled back because she seemed so happy to see me. You're back. She laughed and shook her head. Third time today, Mrs. Smith. You must really love shopping here. Or maybe you keep forgetting what you came to buy. Felt confused. The tomato in my hand suddenly felt heavy. Put it down slowly. Sorry, dear. I think you have me mixed up with someone else. This is my first time in this store. Katie's smile got smaller. She looked at me carefully, studying my face. Her eyes went from my eyes to my nose to my mouth. But you were here 2 hours ago. You bought mangoes and that expensive chocolate that you always get from the top shelf. And before that, this morning, you were here buying bread and milk. Katie, my son Benjamin's voice cut through the air like a knife. He appeared next to me so fast I almost jumped. His face was white like he had seen something scary. We need to leave right now. His hand grabbed my arm tight. The basket he was holding fell to the floor with a loud sound. Benjamin, what are you doing? Yes, let's get out of here. His voice was quiet, but I could hear fear in it. He started pulling me toward the exit. Our basket was still on the floor in the middle of the store. But we haven't paid for anything. We haven't even bought what we came for. Forget it. We'll go to a different store. I looked back at Katie. She was standing there looking very confused. She watched us walk away quickly. The glass doors opened and Benjamin pushed me through them into the parking lot. My heart was beating fast now. Not because I was tired, but because I could see something was very wrong. The way Benjamin looked scared made me scared too. Benjamin Robert Smith. You stop right now and tell me what's happening. I stopped walking and stood still on the ground. I refused to move. 40 years of being a mother taught me when my son was hiding something from me. He ran his hand through his hair. I remembered he did the same thing when he was a little boy and had done something wrong. It's nothing, Mom. She made a mistake. Let's just go to the store on Park Street instead. She knew my name, Benjamin. People who make mistakes don't know your name. She said I was there 3 times. She talked about specific things I bought. Expensive chocolate. She acted like she knew me very well. A car drove past and honked its horn. Benjamin jumped like the sound scared him. Can we please talk about this in the car? It's getting cold out here. I let him walk me to his black car, but my mind was full of questions. Something was very wrong. I could feel it in my stomach. That feeling a mother gets when her child is hiding something big. We drove without talking for a few minutes. I watched the streets of Sydney go past, buildings made of red brick shops with bright signs, people walking with shopping bags. Everything looked normal and everyday, but nothing felt right. There's a woman, Benjamin finally said. His hands held the steering wheel so tight his fingers were white. She shops at that store. She looks like you, looks like me, very much like you." He cleared his throat. "Strange, actually. Emma and I saw her a few months back. We thought maybe she was a cousin we didn't know about or something. And you didn't think to tell me this, yes. In 2 weeks of me visiting, you couldn't find time to say, 'By the way, Mom, there's someone in Sydney who could be your twin.'" He breathed in quickly when I said the word twin. I saw it clearly. His shoulders got tight. His whole body went stiff. "Benjamin, what aren't you telling me?" "Nothing, Mom. I just didn't want you to worry about some strange woman who happens to look similar to you. It's probably just one of those things where people look alike." But I knew my son. I raised him by myself after his father left when Benjamin was 10. I worked night shifts at the hospital to pay for his school. I was there for every happy moment and every sad moment. And I knew for certain that he was lying to me. "Take me back to your house," I said quietly. "Mom, now Benjamin." The drive to their house in a nice part of Sydney was silent and heavy. Emma was not home when we got there. She was at one of her yoga classes. Their home always made me feel a bit strange. Everything was white and gray. The furniture looked expensive but not comfortable. There were pictures on the walls that I didn't understand. I went straight to the guest room where I had been sleeping. I took my phone from my bag. My hands were shaking a little. I searched on the internet. How to find someone who looks like you, Sydney. The results didn't help much. I tried different searches. Person who looks like me, Sydney. Twins who didn't grow up together. How to find adoption records. Melbourne, 1963. That last search made me stop. My mother had died 2 months ago. I never thought to ask more questions about how I was born. She always said I was born at home in Melbourne. No hospital, just a woman who helped mothers have babies at home. My mother said she couldn't remember the woman's name. I never doubted her. Why would I? But now with Katie's words in my head 3rd time today, I started to doubt everything. I heard Benjamin's voice in the hallway. He was talking on his phone in a quiet voice. I heard him say, "Elle knows something, and she needs to stay away, and you know what to do." A cold feeling went down my back. I opened my computer and started searching more carefully. Melbourne birth records, 1963. Adoption papers, missing people. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I felt like I had to find something. An hour later, I hadn't found much, but I did find something strange. My birth certificate, which I had scanned years ago for my passport, looked wrong. The paper looked too new for 1963. The official stamp was so light you could barely see it. I never noticed before because I never had a reason to look closely. A knock on the door made me jump. Mom Benjamin's voice was soft. He sounded sorry. "Can we talk?" "Come in." He walked in looking tired, like he had become older in just a few hours. He sat on the bed and didn't look at me. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise to listen to everything before you get upset." "All right. The woman at the grocery store, her name is Helen. Helen Parker." He took a deep breath. "Mom, she's not just someone who looks like you. We're almost sure she's your identical twin sister." The room felt like it was spinning. I held onto the desk to keep myself steady. "That's impossible," I whispered. "My mother would have." "Your mother lied." His voice was gentle but firm. "We've known about Helen for 8 months. Emma met her at a charity event. She looked so much like you that we started asking questions. We hired someone to investigate. 8 months. My voice got louder. "You've known for 8 months and never told me. We were trying to find the right way to tell you. We wanted to learn more first. Mom, listen. Helen is rich. Very rich. Her parents who adopted her died and left her lots of money. She made that money grow even bigger by investing it. She lives in a fancy neighborhood near the harbor, one of the most expensive places in Sydney. I stared at my son, this man I thought I knew. He felt like a stranger now. Why didn't you tell me the second you found out he looked away? We were trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From knowing I have a sister. From the truth, it's complicated. Mom. Helen. She's not healthy. She has early Alzheimer's disease, and there are people around her. People who... He stopped talking suddenly. People who... What, Benjamin? He stood up and walked to the window. People who might not want her to suddenly find out she has a sister who could try to take her money. Is that what you think I would do? Yes. Try to take a stranger's money. Of course not. He turned back to me. His face looked pained, but other people might think that. We were trying to figure out how to do this carefully, how to make it legal and safe for both of you. I want to meet her, I said. The words came out before I even thought about them. This Helen. I want to meet my sister. Benjamin's face went completely white. That might not be a good idea right now. Why not? Because he stopped like he was fighting with himself about what to say. Because she goes to that grocery store 3 times a day. Mom sometimes more. She buys random things and forgets she already bought them. She gets confused about where she is. And the people around her, her money manager, her lawyer, they watch her very carefully. If they found out about you suddenly, if they thought you were trying to... I don't care about her money. I stood up. Anger filled my whole body. I care that I had a sister I never knew about. I care that my mother lied to me my whole life. I care that you've been keeping this from me for 8 months. Mom, please. No, I held up my hand. You don't get to Mom, please me right now. You've been lying to me for 8 months. 8 months of phone calls and me visiting where you could have told me the truth. I grabbed my bag. My hands were shaking with anger and shock and a sadness I didn't fully understand yet. Where are you going for a walk? Need air. I need to think. Wait, there's more. There's something else you need to know about Helen, about why we've been so. But I was already out the door. I couldn't hear another word. I needed space. I needed to breathe. I needed to understand how my whole life could suddenly feel like a lie. The September air hit me when I stepped outside onto the street. Tourists walked by taking photos of the old buildings. A man played guitar on the corner. Everything was so normal while my world was falling apart. Had a sister, Quinn. We were separated when we were babies, and my son had been keeping her a secret for 8 months. The question burning in my mind as I walked without direction through Sydney wasn't just why, it was, what else is Benjamin hiding? I pulled my sweater tighter and kept walking. I didn't know that the answer to that question would break everything I thought I knew about my family and myself. I walked for almost 3 hours. My feet hurt. By the time I got back to Benjamin's house, it was dark outside. The lights were on in every room. Through the window, I could see both Benjamin and Emma moving around inside. They were moving their hands a lot like they were arguing. I stopped at the door and got my key out. Then I heard Emma's voice. She was shouting. She never shouted. You should never have let her go to that store. What were you thinking I didn't know Helen would be there today? Benjamin shot back. How could I have known you should have been more careful? 8 months of planning, Benjamin. Months, and you destroy it in one stupid trip to the grocery store. Planning. My hand froze on the door handle. What planning? Keep your voice down. Benjamin said in a harsh whisper. She could come back any minute. But maybe it's time we told her everything. This sneaking around makes me feel sick inside. We can't tell her. Not yet. Not until after I push the door open. They both jumped. Emma's hand flew to her chest. She recovered fast, smoothing her blonde hair and putting a smile on her face that didn't reach her eyes. "Margaret, you must be freezing. Let me make you some tea." After what I asked, closing the door behind me, Benjamin said not until after. After what? The look they gave each other was full of meaning I couldn't understand. "Mom, you're hearing things out of context," Benjamin started. "Then give me the context." I set my bag down carefully. I kept my voice calm even though I was so angry inside. "Tell me what you've been planning for 8 months. Emma moved toward the kitchen. "I'll make that tea." The word came out harder than I meant it to. "Both of you sit down now." They looked at each other again. Something in Benjamin's face made him look like a little boy again, like when I caught him stealing cookies before dinner. They sat on the white couch while I stayed standing. Standing made me feel more in control. Thing I learned long ago. The truth I said. All of it. Starting now. Benjamin rubbed his face with both hands. "Mom, this is going to sound worse than it is. Then you'd better choose your words very carefully." He took a deep breath. "Helen doesn't just have Alzheimer's. She has no other family, no children, never got married. Her parents who adopted her died years ago. Her whole estate, we're talking about $35 million, Mom is going to charity when she dies. The number hit me like someone had punched me. $35 million, and I asked, even though I could already feel the dread in my stomach." Natalie spoke up. Her voice was tight. "And we've been helping her being her friends. She's lonely and confused. She needed people she could trust." "Trust," I repeated slowly. The word tasted sour in my mouth. "You became friends with a sick, rich woman who happens to look exactly like me. And you never thought to mention this to me. We were going to tell you, Benjamin insisted, but we needed to build the friendship first, make sure she was comfortable, get the legal things in place." Legal things. My voice rose. "What legal things, silly and damning? Benjamin Robert Smith, answer me right now." "Helen changed her will 4 months ago," he said quietly. "She left half of her money to me. She said I was like the son she never had." The room spun. I grabbed the back of a chair to keep from falling. "You manipulated a sick woman into changing her will." The words came out as a whisper. "No." Benjamin jumped up. "It wasn't like that. We really care about her. She was being taken advantage of by her money manager, this terrible man named Richard Chen. He had control of all her money. He was charging her huge fees. He was keeping her away from everyone. We actually helped her mom. We protected her by getting yourself set up to inherit $17 million by being there for her when no one else was." Emma's voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like watching someone slowly lose who they are? We visit her every day, every single day. We make sure she takes her medicine, that she eats properly, that she's not wandering around lost. Where were the charities then? Where were all these organizations that are supposedly getting her money fell into a chair? My legs couldn't hold me anymore. Does she know? Does Helen know I exist?" The silence went on too long. "Answer me." "No," Benjamin admitted. "We haven't told her. Why not? Because Chen would use it against us. Emma said he's already suspicious. If he found out Helen has an identical twin who knew nothing about her, he'd claim we were running some kind of trick. He'd say we planned the whole thing, that you were part of it from the start. But I wasn't. I didn't even know. Stop." Understanding hit me. "That's why you never told me. You couldn't risk me accidentally meeting Helen. Couldn't risk anyone finding out about me at all because it would ruin your chance at her money. It's not about the money." Benjamin's face turned red. "Mom, I love Helen. She's family. She's your sister, which makes her my aunt. Don't you see? We were trying to protect everyone. Her from Chin-Yu from getting dragged into legal trouble, and yes, ourselves from false accusations. You should have told me the moment you found out. My voice was hard. The moment you realized I had a twin sister, you should have told me. Nothing. Not money, not legal problems. Nothing gave you the right to keep that from me. We were going to tell you next week. Emma said, we had it all planned. We were going to introduce you to Helen on her birthday, October 20th. Make it a special day. Bring you both together properly with witnesses with everything documented so no one could say we did anything wrong later. How nice, I said coldly after she'd already changed her will. Benjamin's face crumpled. That's not fair. Fair. I stood up shaking with anger and heartbreak. You want to talk about fair? I've spent 62 years thinking I was alone in the world. My mother died without telling me I had a sister. And you, my own son, found her 8 months ago and said nothing. You became her friend. You got close to her. You convinced her to give you $17 million all while keeping me in the dark. Don't you dare talk to me about fair. I headed toward the guest room. Wait, there's something else. Benjamin's voice stopped me. Something you need to understand about why we did this. I can't imagine what could possibly make this okay. Chin has been stealing from her. The words rushed out. We have proof, bank statements, fake signatures. He's taken at least $4 million over the past 4 years. Helen was too confused to notice, and he was counting on her dying before anyone figured it out. Turn slowly. You have proof. Copies of everything. We've been building a case, waiting for the right time to expose him. But if we acted too soon, he'd destroy the evidence and say we were the ones stealing from her. We needed Helen to be stable enough to tell the truth. We needed to prove we were trustworthy first. And getting 17 million proves you're trustworthy. Emma stood up. The new will has a special part. If Benjamin inherits, he has to use at least half of it to start a foundation. In Helen's name for Alzheimer's research and helping patients, it was Helen's idea. She wanted her money to help people like her. I looked at my daughter-in-law's face searching for lies, but all I saw was exhaustion and what looked like real emotion. Show me the proof, I said. Beochin. Benjamin got his computer and opened a folder labeled HP Financial Records. I spent 20 minutes looking at bank statements, transfer records, and emails. The pattern was clear. Regular withdrawals, always just under the amount that would trigger automatic checks. Always with vague reasons like investment management fees or estate planning costs. This is theft, I said finally. Why haven't you gone to the police? Because Chen has connections, Benjamin explained. His wife's brother is a judge. His friend is the police commissioner. We need a perfect case, and we need Helen clear-headed enough to support us. Her good days are getting fewer and fewer. A knock on the door made us all freeze. Benjamin checked the security camera on his phone and went pale. It's Chin. What Emma's voice went high. What's he doing here? I don't know. But Benjamin looked at me. Mom, you need to hide. He sees you. He realizes you exist. I'm not hiding in my own son's house. Please. His eyes were desperate. Please, just this once. We're so close to exposing him. Don't let him ruin it now. The knock came again, harder this time. Against every feeling in my body, I went back to the guest room. I left the door open just a tiny bit so I could hear. My heart pounded as Benjamin opened the front door. Mr. Chen. Benjamin's voice was carefully neutral. This is a surprise indeed. The voice that answered was smooth and educated and cold. We need to talk about Helen and about some very interesting financial records that have gone missing from my office. My blood went cold. He knew. Somehow he knew they'd been investigating him. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Benjamin said calmly. "Don't you?" Chen's voice moved closer. "Funny thing about security cameras, Benjamin. They catch all sorts of interesting things. Like, for example, someone who looks a lot like you entering the building's file room 4 weeks ago using a key card that was reported stolen. Through the crack in the door, I could see Emma's face go white." "That's ridiculous," Benjamin said. "I've never been to your building. Then you won't mind explaining why Helen suddenly wants to fire me as her money manager. After 4 years of perfectly good service, who's been filling her head with lies while she's confused, Helen makes her own decisions." "Does she?" Chin laughed. It was a sound with no humor. Or do her new best friends make them for her? You know, Benjamin, manipulating vulnerable old people is a crime. Elder abuse fraud, undue influence. These charges carry serious prison time. Get out of my home loudly. But understand this. I've already filed a complaint with Senior Protection Services. They'll be investigating Helen's situation very thoroughly. Every relationship, every financial transaction, every change document. If they find that you've been manipulating her, taking advantage of her sick mind, well, I imagine that 17 million inheritance will disappear rather quickly, along with your freedom. We've done nothing wrong. Then you have nothing to worry about." Chen's voice dripped with fake niceness. "I'm sure the investigation will clear everything up. Oh, and one more thing. I've asked the court to have Helen declared legally unable to make her own decisions. The hearing is scheduled for November 3rd. Once she's declared unable, any wills she's signed in the past year will be canceled. Just thought you should know." The door closed. I heard the lock click. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Emma started crying. Deep, heavy sobs that shook her whole body. Benjamin held her. His own face was gray. I stepped out of the bedroom. My mind was racing. Senior Protection Services court hearings, accusations of elder abuse, and in the middle of it all, a sick woman, my sister, who I still hadn't met. "When is Helen's next good day?" I asked quietly. Benjamin looked up, surprised. "Sometimes mornings are better." "Why?" "Because you're going to take me to meet her tomorrow morning. Before any investigators show up, before any court hearings, I deserve to meet my sister." "Mom, if Chin finds out you exist, then he finds out." I straightened my shoulders. "But I'm not going to let that man or anyone else keep me from meeting Helen. She's my family, my blood, and unlike you, I'm not going to keep secrets from her." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Benjamin's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his face went even more pale. Something I wouldn't have thought possible. What Ma asked. "It's from Helen's building security. She's missing. She left for her walk 4 hours ago and hasn't come back." Outside the window, Sydney had gone dark. Somewhere in this city, my twin sister was lost, confused, and alone, and I was going to find her whether my son helped me or not. "We need to call the police," Emma said, already reaching for her phone. Benjamin's hand shot out, stopping her. "We can't involve the police, not with Chen's complaint already filed. It'll look like we're the ones who let her wander off." "Then what do you suggest?" Emma's voice was high with panic. "She's been missing for 4 hours. Anything could have happened." "I know where she might be," I said. Both of them turned to stare at me. "The grocery store. The cashier said she'd been there 3 times today. If she's confused, she might go back to places she knows." Benjamin grabbed his car keys. "That's 20 minutes away. Let's go." We drove through Sydney's nighttime streets without talking. I sat in the back seat watching the city lights blur past. My mind was filled with images of a woman I'd never met, but who shared my face. Was she scared cold? Did some part of her feel that something was different tonight? That somewhere in this city, her mirror image was searching for her. The grocery store parking lot was almost empty when we arrived. Through the windows, I could see Katie at her register looking bored as she checked out a customer, buying things late at night. There, Emma pointed to a person sitting on the bench outside the pharmacy next door. Is that her? Even from far away, even in the dim light, I knew it was her, like looking at a photo of myself. She wore a tan coat like one I owned. Her gray hair was cut almost the same way as mine. She sat staring at nothing, her hands folded in her lap. "Let me talk to her," I said already, opening the car door. "Mom, wait." Benjamin started. No more waiting. No more secrets. I stepped out into the cold night air. My heart thundered as I walked toward her. She didn't look up until I was standing right in front of her. When she did, her eyes went wide. Hazel eyes exactly like mine in a face that was my own looking back at me. "Oh," she said softly. "I knew you'd come eventually." The words made me freeze. "You knew about me. I've seen you," she said in dreams and mirrors sometimes. Mother always said I was imagining things, but I knew. I've always known I wasn't complete. I sat down beside her, my legs suddenly weak. "My name is Margaret. Margaret Smith. Helen." She studied my face with wonder. "Helen Parker. You're very beautiful. We're very beautiful, aren't we?" She laughed. "Sound both happy and lost. I should know my own face, but sometimes I don't. Do you ever forget what you look like, Helen? I'm your sister. Your twin sister. I don't have a sister. Mother would have told me." But even as she said it, tears started running down her face. "Why did she never tell me? I don't know," I said, taking her cold hands in mine. "But we're going to find out together." Behind us, I heard Benjamin and Emma coming closer. Helen's face changed instantly when she saw Benjamin brightening like a child seeing a favorite uncle. Benjamin and Emma. "Did you come for our evening visit?" "You're very on time tonight." She checked her watch, confused. "Or am I late? I sometimes lose track." "We were worried about you," Benjamin said gently, kneeling down in front of her. "You were gone a long time." Was I? She looked around like seeing the parking lot for the first time. "I wanted oranges. Did I get oranges?" She had no bag, no purchases. "It's okay," Emma said softly. "We'll get you home." "But I haven't introduced you to my new friend." Helen pointed to me. "Isn't she lovely? She says we're sisters. Do you think that's possible?" Benjamin. The pain in my son's face was real. Whatever else he'd done, whatever his reasons were, he clearly cared for this fragile woman. "I think anything's possible," he said carefully. "Let's get you somewhere warm and we can talk about it." We drove to Helen's apartment in a fancy area overlooking the harbor. It was a beautiful building. Helen dozed in the front seat, her head resting against the window. I sat in back with my mind reeling from our short conversation. She dreamed of me. All these years, some part of her had known. Her apartment was breathtaking. Huge windows, original art furniture that belonged in museums, but it also showed signs of her sickness. Sticky notes everywhere with reminders, multiple calendars with different appointments written on them, 4 pairs of reading glasses on different tables. Emma helped Helen to the bedroom to change into pajamas, while Benjamin and I stood in the living room. I walked to the windows, looking out at Sydney's sparkling skyline. "She's very sick, isn't she?" I said quietly. "Some days she's perfectly fine. Other days he trailed off. She's getting worse faster than the doctors thought she would." "How long have you really known her?" Benjamin silence. "Then 11 months. I turned to face him. 11 months. You said 8. I was trying to make it sound less bad. Mom, I met her at a hospital fundraiser that Emma made me go to. She was sitting alone, looking lost. I helped her find where she left her coat. You thanked me. Said I reminded her of someone, though she couldn't remember who. A week later, I saw her at a coffee shop. She didn't recognize me at all. That's when I realized something was wrong, and you decided to become her friend because she was alone and scared, and no one else cared. His voice broke. Do you know what Chin did when she got diagnosed? He pushed everyone away, told her friends, and the few distant family members she had that she was becoming paranoid that she was making things up. He pushed everyone away so he could control her completely. I stepped in because someone had to and convinced her to put you in her will. She insisted she wanted to leave something to someone who actually cared about her. He ran his hands through his hair. I know how it looks, but I swear, Mom, everything I did was to protect her from Chen. Then why didn't you go to the police right away? Why play this long game? Because I needed proof that couldn't be questioned. Marie's word alone wouldn't hold up in court. She's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Any lawyer would destroy her on the stand. I needed documents, witnesses, pattern of behavior. I've been working with someone who analyzes finances, gathering everything we need to put Chen away for good. The bedroom door opened. Emma came out, her face serious. Benjamin, you need to see this. We followed her into Helen's bedroom. She sat on the bed in her nightgown, looking small and weak. On the bed beside her was a wooden box. She wants to show you something Emma said. Helen opened the box with shaking fingers. Inside were letters, dozens of them yellow with age. She pulled one out and handed it to me. The handwriting was shaky but strong. My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, then I've finally found the courage to tell you the truth. Or I've passed on and you've discovered it yourself. You had a sister, Quinn. The adoption agency separated you at birth. They said it was better that way, that twins were harder to place together, that you'd each have better lives apart. I've regretted that decision every day since. Her name was Margaret. She went to a family in Melbourne. I tried to find her once when you were 15, but they'd moved and the agency wouldn't give me information. Please forgive me. Please know that I loved you both. Even though I only got to keep one of you, your mother, Catherine Parker, the letter was dated 4 years ago. Helen had known or had started to know before the disease took even that from her. There's more. Helen said, her voice clearer now, more present. She handed me another envelope, this one unopened. This came 3 weeks ago from a lawyer in Melbourne. I was supposed to open it, but I kept forgetting. Then I'd remember and get scared. Benjamin kept asking about it, but I wasn't ready. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from a law firm, Morrison and Associates, dated September 22nd. Dear Miss Parker, we represent the estate of Ruth Smith, deceased August 3rd. In reviewing Mrs. Smith's things, we discovered documents about an adoption that took place in 1963. Mrs. Smith was not your biological mother, but she kept detailed records about the adoption, including information about your biological family. We believe you have a twin sister, Margaret Smith, who is Mrs. Smith's daughter by adoption. We attempted to contact Miss Smith, but she has been traveling. We are writing to inform you of this connection and to forward documents that Mrs. Smith wished both you and your sister to have. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience. I read it twice, 3 times. Ruth Smith, my mother. She died 2 months ago while I was visiting Benjamin. Died knowing the truth and never telling me. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. Your mother died. Benjamin's voice was small. Mom, you never said. I didn't know. The words exploded out of me. I was here visiting you when it happened. My neighbor called 4 days later. I flew back for the funeral, but there was nothing. No mention of any documents. No lawyer contacted me about anything. Helen was watching me with those hazel eyes so like my own. Your mother kept secrets too. The word was bitter. Both our mothers did. There's something else in the box, Emma said quietly. She pulled out a large envelope and sealed. Inside was a birth certificate, original not changed. It listed both Catherine and Margaret Rose, born October 20th, 1963 to Anna Walsh. Father unknown twin girls separated by court order December 1963. Anna Walsh was our birth mother, I whispered. I hired someone to find her, Helen said. 3 years ago, before I got too sick. She died in 1987, drug overdose. She was an addict, unmarried, barely 17 when she had us. The government took us away and put us up for adoption separately. The room swam. I sat down hard on the bed. All my life, Helen continued, her voice gaining strength, like fighting through the fog of her disease. I felt like something was missing, like I was incomplete. Mother Catherine. She was wonderful, but she was sad too. Guilty. She never told me about you because she was afraid I'd hate her for not fighting to keep us together. But I found these letters after she died. She'd been trying to find you for years. And my mother, I said slowly, she had documents about all of this. She knew where you were. She knew your name. Why didn't she tell you Benjamin asked? The answer was there in the lawyer's letter, because she thought I'd leave her. She thought if I knew I had a sister who was wealthy, successful, living an exciting life in Sydney, I'd resent her for our simple life in Melbourne. So she said nothing. She died and said nothing. Helen reached out and took my hand. We've both been robbed, sister. Robbed of 62 years together, but we're here now. My phone rang, breaking the moment. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me click accept. Mrs. Smith. The voice was crisp, professional. This is Richard Chen. I believe we need to talk about your sister and about your son's criminal activities. My blood froze. How did you get this number? Have my ways. I also have a proposition for you. Meet me tomorrow 9:00 a.m. at the Grand Hotel restaurant. Come alone. If you bring your son or his wife, the police will be waiting instead. And trust me, Mrs. Smith, you want to hear what I have to say before anyone in uniform gets involved. Why should I? Because Benjamin isn't the only one who's been investigating people. I know about the documents he stole from my office. I know about the finance expert. I know about the will, and I know something he doesn't. Something about your mother's estate that's going to change everything. 9:00 a.m. Mrs. Smith, don't be late. The line went dead. Benjamin was staring at me. What did he say? I looked at my son. This man I'd raised alone, worked night shifts for, gave up everything to give a good life. This man who'd been lying to me for 11 months. This man who might be a hero or a villain, and I still couldn't tell which. He wants to meet me tomorrow morning alone. Absolutely not. Benjamin said it's a trap. Maybe. Or maybe he really does know something about Mother's estate, something you don't. The look of fear that crossed Benjamin's face told me everything. There was still more he wasn't telling me, more secrets, more lies, more manipulation. Helen yawned, her brief moment of clarity fading. I'm very tired. Will you stay tonight, Margaret? I've spent so many nights alone. It would be nice to have my sister here. I looked at this fragile woman. We mirror my blood, my twin. Then at my son standing stiff with secrets and fear. Yes, I said to Helen, "Mom, we need to talk about Chin tomorrow." I cut him off after I meet with him, after I hear what he has to say. "You've controlled this story for 11 months, Benjamin. Now it's my turn." Emma and Benjamin exchanged a look of pure panic. "Mom, please. You don't understand what you're walking into. Then you should have been honest with me from the start." I stood up, helping Helen into bed. "Now go home, both of you. I'll call you after the meeting. You can't trust Chen." "And I can't trust you," I said quietly, "so I'll hear him out and make my own decisions." That's what adults do, Benjamin. They make their own informed decisions instead of manipulating people and keeping secrets. The words hit their mark. Benjamin's face crumpled. "I was trying to protect you," he whispered. "No, you were trying to protect yourself now. Please leave. My sister needs rest." After they left, I lay in the guest room of Helen's apartment staring at the ceiling. In the next room, I could hear her breathing deep and steady. We were connected by blood, by birth, by 62 years of not knowing each other. And tomorrow I would walk into whatever trap or truth Richard Chan had waiting for me. Because unlike my son, I wasn't afraid of the truth anymore. I was afraid of what I'd become if I kept living in lies. I woke at 5:30 a.m. to find Helen already upstanding at her living room window in her nightgown, staring out at the city as dawn painted the sky pink and gold. "You're still here," she said without turning around. "I thought maybe I dreamed you." "I'm real," I said, joining her at the window. "We both are." He turned to me, and for a moment her eyes were clear and sharp. "That man who called you last night Richard, you shouldn't trust him. But you shouldn't trust Benjamin either. They're both using you, Margaret. Using us. What do you mean?" But the clarity was already fading from her eyes. I wrote it down somewhere. I always write things down now before I forget. But then I forget where I put the notes. She laughed. Sounded with fear. "It's like living in a house where someone keeps moving all the furniture." I spent the next hours searching Helen's apartment while she showered and dressed. Found notes everywhere on the fridge, tucked in books taped to mirrors. Most were simple reminders. Take pills at 7:00 a.m. Benjamin visits Mondays and Thursdays. Emma's birthday is June 8th. But then I found one tucked inside a cookbook in the kitchen, written in shaky handwriting that got more frantic as it went on. Richard knows about Margaret. He showed me a photo, said she's been in Sydney for days, said Benjamin is hiding her. Why Benjamin says Richard is stealing from me. But Richard says Benjamin is manipulating me. Who do I believe? I don't know anymore. I don't know anything. There's money missing. $300,000. Someone took it. Richard says Benjamin. Benjamin says Richard. I just wanted to stop. I just want to remember who I can trust. The note was dated 6 days ago, 3 days before I'd arrived in Sydney. My hand shook as I put the note in my pocket. Chen had known about me before the thing at the grocery store. He'd been watching, waiting, gathering information. But how and why wait until now to contact me? Helen came out of her bedroom dressed in pants and a sweater, looking surprisingly put together. "I'm having a good morning," she said. "Can feel it. My mind is clear. Will you make coffee? I can never remember how much water to use." We sat together at her breakfast table, drinking coffee and eating toast. For a few precious moments, we were just two sisters sharing a morning meal the way we should have been doing for 62 years. "Tell me about your life," Helen said. "I want to know everything. Did you marry? Have children? What did you do for work?" I told her about my late husband, James, who died in a car accident 18 years ago. About my career as a teacher, about Benjamin, my only child, and how proud I'd been when he'd gotten into university. "He was always ambitious," I said. "Even as a boy, but he was kind too. Or I thought he was. He is kind, Helen said firmly. I see it when he visits. The way he makes sure I've eaten, the way he reads to me when I can't focus on the words myself. But he's also desperate. Can see that too. Desperate for what money security, not for himself. For Emma. She grew up rich. You know, her family lost everything in the 2009 crash. She's terrified of being poor again. And Benjamin would do anything to keep her happy, even things that shame him. He thought of the will, the 17 million, the careful manipulation. You know what he's doing, don't you? You know he set himself up to inherit half your money. Of course I know I'm sick, Margaret. Not stupid. Not yet, anyway. She smiled sadly. I made him the person who gets the money because I wanted to. Because he's family, your son, which makes him mine too. And because I'd rather the money go to family than to charities run by people who've never met me. But what about Chen's theft? The proof Benjamin has. Helen's face darkened. That's real. Richard has been stealing from me. I have proof. Not just Benjamin's proof, but my own. I hired someone to investigate 6 months ago during one of my clear periods. Richard doesn't know about him, neither does Benjamin. I set down my coffee cup carefully. What did the investigator find? Everything. Richard's gambling debts, his girlfriend in Brisbane, the fake companies he's been sending my money through, but he also found something else. She reached across the table and gripped my hand. Margaret, your mother's estate. The documents that lawyer mentioned in the letter. Richard has them. The room seemed to tilt. What? Oh. The investigator tracked the law firm. Morrison and Associates. They sent copies of Ruth Smith's documents to both of us, but Richard opens my mail. Has for months. He's been opening everything, checking it. He got my copy and realized immediately what it meant. That's how he knew about you. But why didn't the lawyer contact me directly? They did. They sent a registered letter to your address in Melbourne 4 weeks ago. You weren't home to sign for it, so it was returned. They tried again last week. Same thing. Because I'd been here in Sydney visiting Benjamin. The timing was almost too perfect to be a coincidence. What's in those documents? Helen, she stood up, walking to a bookshelf. She pulled out a book that was hollow inside, retrieved a folder from it. My investigator got copies. Richard doesn't know I have them. Inside were pages and pages of paperwork, but it was the handwritten letter on top that made my blood run cold. To my daughters, Margaret and Helen, if you're reading this, then you found each other, and I am gone. I'm sorry for the secrets. I'm sorry for the lies. But most of all, I'm sorry for what I'm about to tell you. Your biological mother, Anna Walsh, didn't die in 1987 as the records show. That was a lie created by the adoption agency to stop you from searching for her. Anna is alive. She lives in a care home in Perth under the name Anna Sullivan. She has severe dementia now. But 25 years ago, when I tracked her down, she was clear enough to tell me the truth. You weren't given up for adoption because she was an unfit mother. You were taken from her by force by a private adoption ring run through St. Michael's Hospital in Melbourne. Wealthy couples paid huge amounts for healthy white babies, and the hospital found ways to provide them. Anna was 17, unmarried. They told her, you died at birth, both of you. They told her she'd had a stillborn delivery and that she should forget and move on with her life. She never forgot. She spent years searching until the grief and the drugs destroyed her. I found out about this in 1993 when a newspaper investigation exposed St. Michael's adoption practices. Dozens of families were affected. I wanted to tell you, Margaret, every day I wanted to tell you, but by then, you had your own life, your own family. I convinced myself that the truth would only cause pain. I was wrong. You deserve to know. I've left paperwork with my lawyer, evidence of the adoption ring, Anna's location, contact information for other families affected. I've also left $60,000 to be split between you and Helen. Not much, but all I could save. Use it to find the truth. Use it to make peace with what was stolen from you. I loved you as best I could. Hope that's enough. Ruth Smith. The letter was dated July 20th, 2 weeks before she died. I read it 3 times, tears running down my face. Our mother, our birth mother, was alive, had been alive all along, and the adoption that separated us wasn't a choice. It was a crime. Benjamin doesn't know about this. Helen said quietly, he thinks the documents are just adoption records, birth certificates. He doesn't know about Anna, about the adoption ring, about the money, but Chin does. And that's why he wants to meet you. He's going to offer you a deal, Margaret. He'll give you the original documents, the ones that prove the illegal adoption, the ones that could open up lawsuits against the hospital, the government, everyone involved. But in exchange, you'll have to help him. Help him how testify that Benjamin has been manipulating me. Sign a paper saying that he's been keeping you away from me, preventing family contact. With your testimony, Chen can have Benjamin's inheritance canned and possibly bring criminal charges. I stood up, walking to the window. Below, Sydney was waking up. Cars filling the streets, people hurrying to work. The normal rhythm of a city that had no idea my world was falling apart. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Why not let me walk into that meeting blind? Because you're my sister. Because we've lost 62 years and I won't lose more to lies and manipulation." She joined me at the window. "I'm dying, Margaret. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but the disease is taking me piece by piece. I don't want to spend what's left playing games with Richard Chen or watching Benjamin destroy himself with greed. What do you want? I want the truth. All of it. I want to meet our mother if she's still alive enough to know us. I want the people who stole us from her to be held responsible. And I want you to have what's rightfully yours. Not my money, but the truth about where you came from." My phone rang Benjamin. I let it go to voicemail. 5 seconds later, it rang again. Then a text. "Mom, please don't go to that meeting. Chin is dangerous. We need to talk now. He knows I'm here. I said he probably has someone watching the building. Richard is thorough." Another text came through, this one longer. "Chan embezzled $2.8 million from Helen. He's desperate. He'll say anything to turn you against me. The meeting is a trap. He might hurt you. Please." I stared at the message. Was Benjamin really concerned for my safety, or was he concerned about losing his inheritance? "Have to go," I said. "I have to hear what Chen has to say. I'm coming with you." "Helen, you can't." "Can and I will. It's my money he's stealing my life. They're all fighting over. I deserve to be there." Her voice was strong, clear. "Besides, if I'm there, he can't lie about what I want, and neither can Benjamin." She was right. And more than that, I wanted her with me, my sister, the other half of myself that I'd been missing all my life. We took a taxi to the Grand Hotel. Helen was sharp during the ride, pointing out buildings, telling me stories about Sydney. But I could see the effort it took. The way she gripped my hand like anchoring herself to the present moment. The restaurant was elegant and quiet, filled with well-dressed business people, having power breakfasts. Richard Chen sat at a corner table, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who radiated confidence like a predator. His eyes widened when he saw Helen with me. "Mrs. Parker, this is unexpected. Is it Richard?" Helen's voice was ice. "You've been making decisions about my life for 4 years. I thought it was time I participated in the conversation. We sat down. A waiter appeared, but Chen waved him away. "You shouldn't have brought her," he said to me. "My sister goes where I go," I replied. The word sister felt powerful, claiming a relationship that had been stolen from us. Chen's smile was thin. "Very well. Then you'll both hear what I have to say." He slid a folder across the table. Inside are the original documents from Ruth Smith's estate. Everything about the adoption ring, about your biological mother, about the money she left you. I'll give you all of it. Free and clear. In exchange for what? In exchange for your testimony that Benjamin Smith has been engaged in financial elder abuse of Helen Parker, that he's manipulated her into changing her will, isolated her from professional care, and stolen money from her accounts. "Benjamin hasn't stolen anything," Helen said firmly. "Hasn't he?" Jin pulled out another folder. "4 weeks ago, $300,000 was transferred from your investment account to an account in the Cayman Islands. The form had your signature, but I've had it analyzed. It's a forgery." He slid a document across the table. It was indeed a transfer form. Signed Helen Parker in handwriting that looked close to hers, but wasn't quite right. "Benjamin did this," I whispered. "Or he had someone do it for him." The timing is interesting, don't you think? Right after he learned you were coming to visit, right after he knew his window was closing, Helen picked up the document, studying it. "This isn't Benjamin's work. How can you be sure? 'Cause it's yours, Richard." She looked up at him with complete clarity in her eyes. "I recognize the mistakes. You always make my age too big, and you never quite get the angle right on my K. Benjamin would have been more careful." Chen's face went very still. "That's ridiculous. Is it? Because my private investigator has samples of your forgeries going back 3 years. You've been practicing my signature, getting better at it. But you're still not perfect." I watched the color drain from Chen's face, watched his careful control slip. "You're confused." He said, his voice hard. "The Alzheimer's makes me forgetful. Not blind, not stupid." Helen placed both hands flat on the table. "Here's what's going to happen, Richard. You're going to give Margaret those documents, all of them, with no conditions. You're going to quit as my money manager today, and you're going to return every penny you've stolen from me, or I'm going to have you arrested. You have no proof. I have an investigator's report documenting every theft. Have bank records, handwriting analysis testimony from your assistant who you pressured into helping you. I have everything, Richard. I've had it for months. I was just waiting for the right moment to use it." Chen stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. Several people looked over. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "Benjamin is using you. When he gets his hands on that inheritance, you'll never see him again." Maybe Helen said, "But that's my choice to make, not yours. And the documents about Margaret's adoption. You think I'll just hand them over now? You will," I said, finding my voice. "Because if you don't, we'll add obstruction and blackmail to the list of charges. Those documents belong to me. They're part of my mother's estate. Keeping them from me is a crime." Chen's eyes were cold with fury. "You have no idea what you're doing. That adoption ring. There are powerful people who don't want that exposed. People who will make your life very difficult if you start asking questions." "Is that a threat?" Helen asked. "It's a warning for both of you." He leaned down, his voice dropping. "You think Benjamin is the villain here? At least he really cares about you, Helen, in his own twisted way. The people who ran that adoption ring, they're still out there, still connected, still powerful, and they will not be happy about you digging up the past." He threw a card on the table. When you're ready to be reasonable, call me. The documents will be waiting, but don't wait too long. Your window is closing faster than you think. He walked out, leaving us sitting in stunned silence. Helen's hand was shaking now, her moment of clarity fading. Margaret, why are we in a restaurant? Are we celebrating something? My heart broke. Yes, I said gently. We're celebrating finding each other. Oh, that's nice. She smiled, vague and distant. Did I have breakfast? I can't remember. I helped her to her feet, guiding her out of the restaurant, but my mind was racing. Chen's warning echoed in my head. Powerful people still connected, still out there. My phone buzzed. Benjamin, where are you? I'm at Helen's apartment. We need to talk about Chen right now. And beneath that, a text from an unknown number. Stop asking questions about St. Michael's Hospital. This is your only warning. I looked down at my sister, already forgetting where we were, forgetting our confrontation with Chen, forgetting everything but the present moment. Somewhere in Perth, our birth mother lived in a care home, not knowing her daughters were alive. Somewhere in Sydney, my son was either a hero or a criminal, and I still couldn't tell which. And somewhere in the shadows, people who had built fortunes on stolen babies were watching. I had walked into this thinking it was just about family secrets and inheritance fights. I was beginning to realize it was so much more dangerous than that. Benjamin was pacing Helen's living room like a caged animal when we returned. Emma sat on the couch, her perfect appearance finally broken, mascara smudged under her eyes. Where have you been? Benjamin's voice was ragged. I've been calling for 3 hours. Do you have any idea how worried he stopped when he saw Helen's confused face? What happened? Is she okay? She's tired, I said, guiding Helen to her bedroom. We had breakfast out. She needs to rest. Breakfast? Mom, you met with Chen, didn't you? What did he say? What did you tell him? Rest first, I said to Helen, helping her onto the bed. We'll talk later. But we just woke up, Helen protested. Weakly, didn't we? I kissed her forehead, an instinct that felt both strange and completely natural. Just a short, sleep sister. Her eyes widened. Flash of recognition. Have a sister now. I need to remember that. You need to. But sleep was already pulling her under. I closed the bedroom door and turned to face Benjamin and Emma. The time for secrets was over. Sit down, I said. Both of you. Something in my voice made Benjamin obey immediately. I pulled out Helen's notes, the investigator's report, Ruth Smith's letter, and laid them all on the coffee table like evidence at a trial. Before you say anything, I started, I want you to understand something. I know about the private investigator Helen hired. I know about the adoption ring. I know about our birth mother being alive. I know about Chen's forgeries and his gambling debts and every penny he's stolen. And I know about the $300,000 that went missing 4 weeks ago. Benjamin's face went white. Mom, I can explain. Can you? 'Cause here's what I think happened. I sat down across from them, pulling on every bit of authority I developed through 40 years of teaching, of managing classrooms, of making important decisions. I think you found out about me before I came to Sydney. I think you knew the lawyer had sent documents to both Helen and me. And I think you panicked. That's not. Let me finish. My voice was still. You panicked because you realized that if I found out about Helen, if we connected, your carefully built plan would fall apart. So you did 2 things. First, you made sure I was here visiting you. When those registered letters arrived at my house in Melbourne, you extended my visit, kept me busy, made sure I wasn't home to receive them. Emma's sharp breath told me I'd hit the mark. Second, you moved money, a lot of money, out of Helen's accounts, not to steal it, to protect it. Because you knew Chen was about to make his move, and you wanted money secured somewhere he couldn't touch it. Benjamin's jaw worked silently. But you made a mistake. I continued. You forged Helen's signature on the transfer form. Not as badly as Chen's forgeries, but still noticeably false. And that gave Chen ammunition to use against you. I was trying to protect her, Benjamin burst out. Chen was going to empty her accounts before the court hearing. I had to move the money somewhere safe to the Cayman Islands. How is that protecting her? It's a trust account in her name with you and me as backup trustees. He grabbed his computer, pulling up documents with shaking hands. Look, here's the paperwork. Every penny is accounted for. I was going to tell her, tell both of you, once it was safely out of Chen's reach. I looked at the documents. They appeared legitimate. But I'd learned not to trust what things looked like. If that's true, why hide it? Why not just tell Helen what you were doing? 'Cause she has good days and bad days, Emma said, her voice breaking. What if we told her on a good day and she agreed, but then on a bad day she forgot and thought we were stealing from her? What if she told Chen he'd have found a way to block the transfer? Or worse, he'd have used it to prove we were manipulating her. I studied their faces, the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate honesty. They believed they were heroes in this story. Maybe they were. Or maybe they were just better liars than I'd thought. Show me everything I said. Every document, every account, every piece of evidence you have against Chen. And I mean everything, Benjamin. No more secrets. For the next hour, they did. Bank statements showing Chen's theft over years. Emails between Chan and his assistant discussing how to hide the transactions. Recorded phone calls where he pressured Helen into signing documents she didn't understand. The finance expert's report showing a clear pattern of theft totaling over $2.8 million. This is enough to put him in prison, I said. Looking at the last document should be, Benjamin agreed, but he has connections. His wife's brother is Judge Harrison Cooper. His lawyer is David Manning, who's defended half the wealthy criminals in Sydney. Without Helen as a believable witness, without someone who can tell the court about the personal impact of his theft, the case might not hold. And that's where I come in. Benjamin looked up surprised. What? That's what you've been planning all along, isn't it? You need me not just as Helen's sister, but as a believable witness who can tell the court about her mental state, about Chen's behavior, about the impact of his theft on a family that's already been torn apart. The guilty look on his face was answer enough. I stood up, walking to the window, and to the IE. Outside, Sydney shined in the afternoon sun, beautiful and uncaring about the dramas playing out in its buildings. Here's what's going to happen, I said, turning back to them. Tomorrow we're going to do exactly what you've been planning. We're going to expose Chen, but we're going to do it right, with full honesty, with Helen's agreement on one of her good days, and with legal help that isn't connected to anyone involved in this mess. Mom, I'm not finished. In exchange, you're going to do something for me. You're going to help me find our birth mother. You're going to help me track down every person involved in that adoption ring. And you're going to accept that when this is over, whatever Helen decides about her will, whether she keeps you as someone who gets money or removes you entirely, we're going to respect her decision without arguing. Of course, Benjamin said quickly, you never. And one more thing, pulled out my phone, opening the text from the unknown number. This came right after I left the restaurant with Chen. Someone is threatening us, warning us away from investigating St. Michael's Hospital. I want to know who sent it, and I want to know what they're afraid we'll find. Emma took the phone, her face going pale as she read the message. Benjamin, this is serious. These people, whoever ran that adoption ring, they're still out there, which is exactly why we need to move fast. I said, before they realize how much we know, before they have time to destroy evidence or silence witnesses. Benjamin stood up, and for the first time since I'd arrived in Sydney, I saw something in his face that reminded me of the boy I'd raised. Strong, brave, and yes, really caring. Kay, he said, but we do this together as a family. No more secrets, no more secrets. I agreed. A sound from Helen's bedroom made us all turn. She stood in the doorway, her hair messy from sleep, her eyes clearer than I'd seen them all day. I heard everything she said quietly. The walls aren't as thick as you think. We froze, unsure how much she'd understood, how much she'd remember. You want to know what I think? Helen walked into the room, her back straight, her voice steady. I think Benjamin is greedy and manipulative and made terrible choices. I also think he really cares about me and was trying to protect my money from a thief. Both things can be true. She sat down in the chair, folding her hands in her lap like a queen holding court. I think Margaret is angry and hurt and doesn't know who to trust. I also think she's the strongest person in this room and the only one brave enough to demand the truth. Both things can be true. She looked at each of us in turn, and I think I'm dying lowly piece by piece, and I'd rather spend what's left of my good days finding out where I came from than fighting over where my money goes. So here's what we're gonna do. She pulled out her phone, dialing a number from memory. Hello, Joe. It's Helen Parker. Yes, I know it's been a while. Listen, I need you to come to my apartment tonight. 6:00 p.m. Bring your recording equipment and your notary things. We're going to do this properly. She hung up and smiled at our shocked faces. Joe Martinez, my lawyer. My real lawyer. Not the one Chin kept pushing me toward. I hired him 6 months ago, the same day I hired the investigator. I've been preparing for this moment for a long time. You've been playing us. Benjamin whispered. All of us this whole time not playing, planning. Helen's smile was sharp. Did you really think I'd let my disease rob me of control over my own life? I might forget what I had for breakfast, but I haven't forgotten how to protect myself. She stood up, walking to a locked cabinet I'd noticed earlier but hadn't questioned. She pulled out a key from her pocket. She'd been keeping it on her person the whole time and opened it. Inside were dozens of file folders, all carefully labeled Chin Evidence, Benjamin Investigation Adoption Records, St. Michael's Hospital, Anna Walsh, Sullivan. I've been writing everything down, Helen said. Every conversation, every visitor, every clear moment I could manage. Yes, I have Alzheimer's. Yes, I'm getting worse. But I'm not helpless. And I'm not anyone's victim. She pulled out a folder labeled Tonight's Meeting, handed it to me. Inside was an agenda typed and printed, outlining exactly what would happen at the meeting with her lawyer. We're going to do several things tonight, Helen said. First, we're going to file a formal complaint against Richard Chen with the police, complete with all the evidence I've gathered. Second, we're going to write a new will, one that's properly witnessed and can't be challenged. Third, we're going to give Margaret full access to all the adoption records and my investigator's findings. And fourth, we're going to create a legal plan for what happens when I can no longer make my own decisions. Helen, I started. I'm making you my power of attorney, Margaret. Not Benjamin, not Emma. You're my sister, my blood, and you're the only person in this room who hasn't lied to me. Benjamin's face crumpled. And Helen, I never meant. I know what you meant. I know you were trying to help, but you also wanted that money, Benjamin. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise. She softened slightly. You're still in the will. A good amount enough to secure your future, but the bulk of my money is going into a trust. I trust that Margaret will manage with clear instructions on how it's to be used. He turned to me for finding our mother, for exposing the adoption ring, for helping other families torn apart by those monsters. Yes, for Alzheimer's research, so maybe someday other families won't have to go through this. Tears ran down my face. You're giving me everything. I'm giving you a mission. There's a difference. She took my hands. We have so little time, Margaret. Maybe a year of good days scattered among the bad ones. I want to use them for something that matters. I want to know where I came from. I want to meet our mother if she can still recognize us. I want the people who stole us to face justice. And if they're powerful, if they're dangerous, Helen's smile was fierce. Then we'll be more dangerous. We've spent 62 years not knowing each other. I'm not going to spend what's left being afraid. The intercom buzzed. Benjamin checked the security screen and went pale. It's the police. 2 detectives already. Emma's voice went high with panic. I called them this morning, Helen said calmly. Before Margaret and I went to meet Chen, I told them I had evidence of financial elder abuse and wanted to file a formal complaint. They said they'd send detectives this afternoon. She walked to the intercom and pressed the button. Send them up, please. Benjamin looked at me, his eyes desperate. You made your choices, Benjamin. Now we face the results together as a family. The knock came at the door. Helen opened it to reveal 2 detectives. One middle-aged woman with kind eyes, one younger man with a notebook. Mrs. Parker, I'm Detective Louise Chen, and this is Detective James Martin. You called about financial abuse. Please come in. I have a lot to tell you. Over the next 3 hours, Helen laid it all out for them with remarkable clarity. The theft, the forgeries, Chen's manipulation, Benjamin's well-meaning but legally questionable attempts to protect her money, the adoption records, the threatening text, all of it. The detectives took notes. Questions looked at the evidence. When Helen began to fade, losing her train of thought, I stepped in to fill the gaps. Benjamin sat silent, his future hanging in the balance. Finally, Detective Chen closed her notebook. This is complicated, she said. The financial crimes are clear. We'll need to bring Mr. Chen in for questioning. As for the transfer to the Cayman Islands, she looked at Benjamin. That's more unclear. If the account is really a trust in Mrs. Parker's name, and if she approves it after the fact, then it's probably legal. But Mr. Smith, you're walking a very thin line. I know, Benjamin said quietly. I just wanted to protect her. The road to trouble is paved with good intentions. Detective Chin stood. Well, be in touch. Meanwhile, Mrs. Parker, I'd suggest you consider getting some protection. If there really are people who don't want that adoption ring exposed, they might do more than send text messages. After the detectives left, we sat in exhausted silence. The lawyer, Joe Martinez, would arrive in an hour. There were documents to sign, decisions to make, legal frameworks to establish. But for this moment, we just sat. 3 generations of one family and one newly discovered member, bound together by blood and money and secrets and love. My phone buzzed, another unknown number. Hesitated, then opened it. The message was a photograph, a grave marker. The writing said, Anna Sullivan, 1946 to 2024. May she rest in peace. Below the photo, a message. Your mother died this morning. Stop looking for answers that died with her. My hand shook as I showed the message to Helen. Her face went still. Then she reached out and deleted the message. They're lying, she said firmly. It's a scare tactic. Call the care home in Perth. Check that she's alive. I dialed the number from the documents, my heart in my throat. A cheerful voice answered. Greenview Care Home. How may I help you? I'm calling about a resident, Anna Sullivan. Yes, Anna had such a good day today. She actually ate all her lunch. Are you family relief flooded through me so strongly I had to sit down? Yes, I'm family. Wonderful. She doesn't get many visitors. When would you like to come see her? I looked at Helen, at Benjamin, at this strange family we'd become. Tomorrow. I said, we'll be there tomorrow. Because if someone was threatening us, trying to scare us away, that meant we were getting close to something they desperately wanted to hide. And I'd spent 62 years not knowing where I came from. I wasn't going to stop now. The morning light came through the windows of Greenview Care Home in Perth, soft and warm. Helen sat beside me in the passenger seat of the rental car, her hands folded peacefully in her lap. She'd had a clear morning, dark, focused present, and we both knew to treasure it while it lasted. Benjamin and Emma followed in their own car. The 4-hour flight from Sydney had been quiet, each of us lost in our own thoughts about what we might find inside. Are you nervous? Helen asked as I turned off the engine. Terrified, I admitted. What if she doesn't know us? What if the dementia has taken everything? Then we'll sit with her anyway. We'll tell her who we are, even if she can't understand. We'll fill in the empty spaces of our lives. Even if she can't fill in hers, Helen squeezed my hand. We're here, Margaret. Together, that's what matters. The care home was nicer than I'd expected. Clean, bright, with paintings on the walls and the smell of coffee instead of medicine. A young nurse named Sarah greeted us warmly. You're here to see Anna. She'll be so happy. She's in the common room. Fair warning, though. She thinks it's 1965 most days. She talks about her babies a lot. Sarah's face softened. The one she thinks she lost. It's very sad. My throat tightened. Can we see her? Sarah led us through a hallway decorated with photos and resident art. The common room was sunny and spacious. Several elderly residents scattered about, some watching television, some doing puzzles, one woman knitting. That's Anna, Sarah said, pointing to a woman sitting by the window. She was small, white-haired, her face deeply wrinkled. But even from across the room, I could see traces of Helen and me in her face. The shape of her nose, the way she held her head, her mother. Helen and I walked slowly. Benjamin and Emma stayed back. Anna was staring out the window, humming softly to herself. Anna, I said gently, kneeling beside her chair. Anna Walsh, a turn, and her eyes haze-likes went wide. Her hand flew to her mouth. No, she whispered. Mo, this isn't real. You're not real. We're real, Mama, Helen said, kneeling on the other side. We're your daughters, Margaret and Helen. We found each other. We found you. Tears ran down Anna's weathered face. She reached out with shaking hands touching my cheek. Then Helen's like checking we were solid. They told me you died, she sobbed. Both of you. They said you were born too early, too small. They said there was nothing they could do. I heard you cry. I know I did, but then they took you away. And when they showed you to me again, you were cold and still. And they said they lied. I said gently, taking her frail hand. We didn't die, Mama. They took us, sold us to different families, separated us. But we're here now. 62 years, Anna whispered. I've been grieving you for 62 years. We sat with her for 3 hours. She drifted in and out of clarity, sometimes thinking we were nurses, sometimes thinking we were her own mother who died long ago. But in the clear moments, she told us everything about the hospital, about the doctor who delivered us Dr. Harold Matthews, about the nurse who held her down when she tried to fight, tried to see her babies, about waking up alone, being told her twins were dead, being given papers to sign and sent home to grieve. I tried to tell people she said her voice breaking. I told everyone who would listen, but I was 17, unmarried, or who was going to believe me. They said I was crazy. They said grief had confused me. Eventually, I started to believe them too. Helen pulled out a photo one the investigator had found of Catherine and Helen together when Helen was a child. This is the mother who raised me. She loved me, but she knew Mama. She knew what they'd done, and she tried to find Margaret to make it right. Anna studied the photo with tears running down her face. She looks kind. She was, Helen said, but I wish I'd known you too. Benjamin stepped forward, his face gentle. Anna, I'm Benjamin Margaret's son, your grandson. Anna looked up at him with wonder. Have a grandson. You have a family, I said. And we're going to make sure the people who took us from you face justice. Anna's hand tightened on mine. They're powerful people, baby. Rich people. They have lawyers and judges who protect them. That's why I could never prove anything. That's why nobody believed me. We have evidence now, I said. Hospital records, adoption documents, stories from other families. We have everything we need. Will it be enough? I thought of Helen's carefully organized files of the investigator's report, of Benjamin's legal knowledge of Emma's connections, of Detective Chen's promise to investigate thoroughly. It will be, I said with more confidence than I felt, because we're not giving up. Not this time. We left Greenview 4 hours later with Anna's blessing and a promise to return soon. She'd asked us to bring photos next time to help her remember our faces on the days when her mind failed her. The drive back to Sydney was different, heavier with purpose, lighter with truth. What happens now? Emma asked when we stopped for gas. Now we fight, I said simply. For Anna, for every family the adoption ring destroyed, and for ourselves. Back in Sydney, Helen's lawyer, Joe Martinez, had news. Richard Chen had been arrested that morning on multiple counts of financial fraud and elder abuse. His attempts to claim protection through his brother-in-law had failed. The investigation was expanding to include his other elderly clients. There's more, Joe said, sliding a document across his desk. We've identified 4 other lawyers and 3 judges who were involved in the adoption ring. Several are still alive, still working. With your testimony and the evidence you've gathered, the state is opening a formal investigation. How long will it take? Helen asked. Years, probably. These things move slowly. I don't have years. Helen's voice was calm. Matter of fact, so we'd better work fast. Over the next month, we worked with a speed that would have been impossible without Helen's money backing us. We hired a legal team. We tracked down other victims of St. Michael's adoption ring, now elderly themselves, many having never known they were stolen. We organized, documented, built a case that couldn't be broken. Helen had good days and bad days. On the good days, she was sharp as ever, directing strategy like a general. On the bad days, I sat with her and told her stories about our mother, about our childhood, that never was, about the life we should have had together. Benjamin threw himself into the legal work with a focus that was almost obsessive. I watched him carefully, still uncertain of his motives. But slowly, I began to see that Emma had been right. He was capable of both greed and real love, both manipulation and genuine care. He was in the end human, flawed, and complicated, and trying his best. The court hearing for Chen came in November. Helen was clear that day, a gift we didn't take for granted. She testified clearly only about his theft and manipulation. I testified about finding my sister, about the documents he'd kept from us, about the threats we'd received. Chen's lawyer tried to paint us as opportunists, as family members manipulating a sick woman, but Helen's own lawyer showed her carefully documented files. Months of evidence showing her clear intent and decision-making even as her disease got worse. The judge ruled in our favor. Chen was sentenced to 7 years in prison and ordered to repay every penny he'd stolen. But the bigger victory came 4 weeks later. The state attorney general announced a formal investigation into the St. Michael's Hospital adoption ring. 6 people were charged, including 3 judges who'd signed the fake adoption papers. The case made national news. Dozens more families came forward with similar stories. Helen and I were invited to testify before a state commission. We sat side by side. 2 elderly women who looked so alike that the commissioners kept getting us confused and told our story about being stolen, about living 62 years apart, about finding each other despite every obstacle. "What do you want from this commission?" one commissioner asked. I looked at Helen. She nodded for me to speak. "Justice for our mother who spent her life grieving children who weren't dead. Responsibility for the people who built fortunes on stolen babies. And a promise, a legally binding promise, that this can never happen again. That no family will be torn apart by greed and lies the way ours was." The commission recommended major changes to adoption rules, required DNA databases for separated siblings, and a victim payment fund. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't undo 62 years of loss, but it was something. In January, Helen's condition worsened. The clear days became rare. Precious gems scattered among weeks of confusion. I moved to Sydney, permanently taking over as her full-time caregiver and the person with power of attorney. Benjamin visited regularly. We'd settled into an uneasy peace. I would never fully trust him again, but I could see he really loved Helen. The inheritance no longer mattered to him as much, or perhaps it did, and he just learned to be more honest about it. Either way, we managed. One evening in late February, Helen had a moment of perfect clarity. We were sitting in her apartment watching the sunset over Sydney. "Margaret," she said, her voice strong and certain, "here I want you to know something. These past months, having you here, knowing you, loving you, they've been the best of my life. Even with the disease taking me piece by piece, even with all the pain of learning the truth, I wouldn't trade these months for anything. Neither would I." I whispered, taking her hand. "I'm scared of forgetting you, of having a day when I wake up and you're a stranger again. Then I'll introduce myself every day if I have to. I'll tell you you're my sister, my twin, my other half, and eventually some part of you will remember. Even if your mind forgets, your heart will know." She smiled, tears running down her face. "Promise me something, anything. When I'm gone, when this disease finally takes the last of me, use the money the way we planned. Find the other stolen children. Help them find each other. Make sure Anna is cared for until the end. And Benjamin." She paused. "Make sure he's okay too. He's flawed, but he's family, and family takes care of family. Promise." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat that way until the last light faded from the sky. Helen died on a Monday in May, peacefully in her sleep, with me holding her hand. She was 62 years old, the same age as the years we'd spent apart. I inherited most of her money as she'd planned. Benjamin received a good trust fund enough to secure his future, without making him rich enough to be careless. The rest went into the foundation we'd established together, the Walsh Parker Foundation for Adoption, Truth and Family Reunion. At Helen's funeral, Anna attended one of her rare, clear days. She sat beside me in the front row, holding my hand, understanding that she'd lost a daughter she'd barely had time to know. "You'll take care of things," she said. It wasn't a question. I will, Mama, and I have. In the 4 years since Helen's death, the foundation has reunited 53 families, separated by the adoption ring. We've funded legal challenges that resulted in 14 convictions of people involved in the scheme. We've created support groups, DNA databases, and advocacy programs. Benjamin works for the foundation, now head of legal affairs. He's good at it, passionate even. Perhaps Helen's death taught him something about what really matters. Or perhaps he simply found a way to channel his ambition into something meaningful. I don't think about it too much anymore. I visit Anna every week. She rarely remembers who I am now. The dementia has gone too far. But I sit with her anyway, holding her hand, telling her stories about her daughters. Sometimes just for a moment, recognition flickers in her eyes. I'm 66 now. My hair is completely white. My hands are marked with age, and I move slower than I used to. But I've never felt more powerful because I learned something through all of this. Age isn't weakness. Experience isn't uselessness. The years I've lived, the pain I've survived, the wisdom I've gathered. These are weapons stronger than youth or strength or money. I outmaneuvered Chin not through force but through patience and intelligence. I navigated my son's lies not through confrontation but through strategic revelation. I honored Helen's legacy not through grand gestures but through steady, determined action. They underestimated me. The people who sent those threatening texts, even Benjamin in his own way. They saw an elderly woman and assumed she could be controlled, dismissed, frightened into silence. They were wrong. Last week, I received a letter from a woman in Tasmania. Her name is Linda, and she's 60 years old. She just discovered through DNA testing that she has a twin sister in Brisbane. They were separated at birth through the same adoption ring that took Helen and me from our mother. I don't know where to start, she wrote. I don't know how to find her, how to make sense of any of this. Can you help? I sat in Helen's apartment, mine now, though I still think of it as hers, and wrote back, yes, I told her. We can help. That's what we do, because this is what 66 years of life has taught me. You can't change the past, but you can refuse to let it control your future. You can't undo injustice, but you can fight hard to prevent it from happening again. You can't restore lost years, but you can make the remaining ones count. I spent 62 years not knowing I had a sister. I spent 7 months knowing her. It wasn't enough time. It would never have been enough time, but we made it matter. Every family we reunite, every truth we uncover, every person we help, it's for Helen, for Anna, for all the stolen children and grieving mothers who deserved better. I'm not a young woman anymore. My energy isn't endless. My time isn't forever, but I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot, because the greatest power I have isn't in my youth or my strength. It's in my refusal to be silent, my refusal to give up, my refusal to let the powerful and corrupt wind simply because they think an elderly woman can't stop them. They thought I was weak. They learned otherwise. And every day in Helen's memory, I continue to prove them wrong. This is my legacy now. Not money, not property, not even the years I spent as a teacher, shaping young minds, fighting for truth, for family, for justice. This is what I was always meant to do. I just needed 62 years, a twin sister I never knew I had, and a son's complicated betrayal to finally find my purpose. Better late than never. Better imperfect than incomplete. Better wise than young. I am Margaret Rose Smith, 66 years old sister of Helen Parker, daughter of Anna Walsh, mother of Benjamin Smith, and I am just getting started. Hi, I'm the creator of this channel. I write these stories myself, and for storytelling style, I use a female AI voiceover. Thank you all for watching.